Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the future of the water and wastewater industry and the careers you didn't know about. We are live on location at the historic Taconic Hotel in Manchester, Vermont. And with us in the house right now is an old Connecticut native from the Connecticut Water Company, Mr. Mike Witek. How are you, Mike?
Great. How you doing, Dave?
Hey, thanks so much, and great presentation, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, my God. Mike did a fantastic presentation on drones, and, so start off telling us how you got in the water industry, Mike.
Oh, boy. So I've been a volunteer fireman since way back when.
Okay.
And I just always thought there was some connection between the fire service and the water utility.
Absolutely.
And I was lucky enough back in the days of Birmingham Utilities that, I was able to mesh the two.
Okay.
And so I kind of had a public safety career that ran alongside my water career back when I started in the 80s there.
Now, is the fire department, was that a volunteer?
It was volunteer, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it was good. And that's kind of how, those small towns, they operated back then.
Well, yeah. And it's one of those services and people don't realize, how valuable a volunteer fire department is. I mean, if a town had ought to suddenly have to go to a paid department, there's no way you could afford it.
I let, back when you drive the engine to a fire, they had books and they would tell you where every fire hydrant was. And I would tell the guys, put the book away. I could tell you where every fire hydrant is.
Exactly.
I put my hand on every one of them at some point or another.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how long you been with Connecticut Water?
I came here around 2007.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. After Birmingham, my career with Birmingham Utilities.
Okay. Geez, I used to go to meetings. Birmingham had an office in Glastonbury.
Yes. So our mothership was in Ansonia.
Okay.
That's why I went back to that name. There was Ansonia Water.
Yep,
There was Derby Gas and Water.
Okay.
And then it kind of went back to the original town of Birmingham.
Okay.
And then after they did that, they purchased the systems out in Glastonbury and Towland and all through there. Yeah. And then when Regional Water Authority came in and took that part over.
Yeah.
Connecticut Water took what we called then our Eastern Division.
I see. So tell us, how did you get into drones?
I always have a love for aviation, flying. Okay. My son got me flying lessons and things like that. So I've always had an affection for aviation, and that was a cheap way to get that thrill, I guess.
Why not?
So and then I started to realize the value in it.
Yeah.
And then, little by little, it just kept snowballing.
Yeah.
And then, the CT Mutts that I mentioned, it's a organization mainly for public safety, but any public utility can get in it too.
Right.
And it's just information gathering. There's no membership fees. There's no money. It's just structure. It's just people who are into it, and they have a lot of input. We have resources with Homeland Security, DHS, all that. So we get good information. Sure.
Yeah. Now, were you the impetus behind getting drones with Connecticut Water?
Yes, I'd like to think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of, I was always, poking that bear.
Yeah.
And then finally it came to fruition, and then engineering was using them, and it's just it's a great program.
So how did you for lack of a better word, pitch that to the powers to be?
Well, I kept slowly hey, how about a drone? Hey, how about a drone? And then my supervisor at the time saw the value in it, and we did it, and it's been great. We use it. It's not like a bigger utility. I think it's American Water. They have something like 40 pilots, 20 drones.
Yeah.
They're at a different level. But on a smaller level, I use it to inspect water tanks. I still climb them.
Okay.
And so there's a value there. Getting to places that you can't get to, it saves time. It saves manpower.
Sure. Absolutely.
And reduces a lot of risk.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the, again, I promote my podcast to all of the, high school seniors and college freshmen and so forth about careers. And, one of the things that drives not only this industry but technology. And, the drone is a piece of technology that's being utilized nationwide, in every industry. So, when you start to do that, I think, that's where students don't realize, how big this umbrella is.
So, if you're going to talk about it, say from that level, the pitch that I would give to any, say high school student coming out of there or whatever, you start small, right? You start with the drone. Next thing you know, you might be taking photos for a real estate agent or whatever.
Yeah.
The minute you start using a drone for any personal gain, you need to be professional. You have to have your Part 107 license.
Yeah.
Okay. The windows or the doors that opens is crazy. Utilities, for example, other businesses.
Sure.
It's just they're always looking for pilots and good pilots. There's a lot of bad actors out there, but to do it correctly, it takes some dedication, some skill, training and so on. And it opens doors, and in my opinion, it makes you a more valuable asset. It's
So the degrees of pilots, there's a hobbyist or recreation.
There's recreational, and then recreational pilots, you could be a recreational pilot, and then you could do a thing called a trust program. It's just a basic course you take, an online course, and it gives you it just elevates your level of knowledge a little bit, but it still doesn't make you a licensed drone pilot.
So what's the limitations or criteria to be or limitations on a hobbyist? What are you allowed or not allowed to do being a hobby?
Well, so right now everybody after March of this year, everyone has to have their drone registered with remote ID if the drone doesn't already come with it. Okay. With the minute you take that photo. And you're a friend of mine. You might have a car cleaning business or whatever. And I take a photo of you waxing your car, and you put it on there as an advertisement. That's personal gain. That's gain for your business. That you just crossed over from being a hobbyist to a commercial pilot.
Okay, all right. So now a hobbyist. Now, are they only allowed to fly at certain altitudes?
But every drone has a 400-foot ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's certain caveats you can get for distances. That's what that beyond visual line of sight I was mentioning.
Okay.
More and more it's becoming popular, but you almost have to be vetted with the FAA. If you apply for that waiver, that's emergency services can get those waivers probably a little bit easier as long as an active emergency call going on. They just can't do it on a whim. They're just passing there's just a new regulation coming through where if it's a tethered drone, you could fly it within certain limits as long as it stays tethered. I know in Boston they have certain regulations. They could fly up to 200 feet closer to the airport than they had been able to in the past. So there's a lot of changes coming on. And a drone is an aircraft. I had a conversation with somebody earlier, and they said, well, joking about shooting a drone out of the sky. And, we were just joking about it, but it's the same charge as shooting at an airplane. It's in the FAA's eyes, it's an aircraft.
It's an aircraft.
It's an aircraft.
Okay, and that's a felony.
Yeah, exactly. And and to get your Part 107 license, there's some of the same test questions that are on your private pilot's license. You need to be able to read weather, listen to the decipher the radio the codes for weather. You need to know how to read an aeronautical map rather. There's a lot of similarities.
Now, do you as a pilot, when you take on a project, do you have to file a flight plan or anything like that? Or?
So there's a checklist you should go through. I mean, that's in aviation, everything is based on checklists. Even your commercial airline, they sit through and they read through a checklist. They go right down the line, and that helps eliminate any problems. Kind of like a job hazard analysis or a pre-trip inspection.
Well, exactly. You want to make sure everyth's working, everything's proper, and you don't forget this because it's easy.
And you have to know the space you're in. If you're within those different zones, you have to know that I can't fly here or whatever. And some of the drones actually have programs built in them where they'll deny you to take off, say, above 50 feet if you're within those areas, based all on GPS.
Yeah. Now, is there criteria where you are flying over people or anything like that?
So it used to be you needed a waiver to fly at night. That has gone away. So now if you are a new Part 107 pilot, you will have that training included in your initial training. Older 107 pilots, they had to wait for their renewal, and then when they did their renewal, they were trained on flying at night. But that if you're going to fly, if you're going to fly and there's an airport nearby, that land site I talked to you about, that low altitude
Right,
clearance. You apply for that online, and then you get that back, and if it's either yes or no, or maybe some other limitations. But there you need to set your parameters. I'm only going to fly this high for this long. Between my start time is this, my end time is that, and so on.
Oh, it's amazing. I taught a high school class, which is a technology class, it was a town tech class, and we started utilizing a drone, and it was that was one of the neat things about the course. I didn't have to teach to a rubric and so forth, but we did real life stuff. We designed web pages. And one of the things that we did in designing web pages, we utilized a lot of aerial photos. As far as that goes, and so we were taking went up and take aerial photos of roofs and all this kind of stuff, and then when the administrative are you using a drone? Okay, now we have to create all these rules. Okay, you can't have the students flying over people.
Well, that's actually a regulation. Yeah, you can't fly over people. You would need to apply for a waiver.
Yeah.
And I will, from what I hear, I've never had the need to apply for that waiver.
Yeah.
But they're seldomly given out.
Yeah.
Because of the risk.
Yeah.
Some drones have parachute systems. Some drones, the higher end drones will have instead of it can land with 3 propellers spinning instead of 4.
Yeah.
It's a rough landing, but it's somewhat controlled.
Right.
For obvious reasons, you don't want this thing crashing into a crowd of people. I mean,
No.
Some of these drones are fully loaded out. They're 16 pounds.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow,
I mean that's a brick falling out of the sky.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's just like, okay.
as good as they are, nothing comes without its risks.
Yeah, and anything like that, and the usefulness that you mentioned in your presentation about delivering life preservers and medications and all that kind of stuff. So talk a little bit about that.
So it's a it's an attachment to the drone. Some drones can carry up to a 6-pound payload. Depends on the manufacturer and the brand. There's just so many variants to that. But you could release 1 package. You could release 4. In sequence. And I just think it's a great tool. I know some lifeguards are using them. Somebody's out there, distressed swimmer, or somebody falls through the ice, say in the wintertime, and the fire department's having trouble getting out to them. You fly a drone out there, you drop a life jacket out to them, or some type of flotation device. It could be the difference between life and death. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You get to that point, and it's
Or somebody's hurt in a remote area. You could drop them a first aid kit and supplies until until EMS or the rescue team gets there, and
or even find them.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, because you could hit them that location. You could laser it, and it'll come back with the exact GPS coordinates.
Yeah, okay.
Punch those into the rescue team, and they know right where to go without wasting any time.
Yeah, and that's huge.
It's the technology has come so far.
Well, and think now, you can buy these ADJ. Drones at Circuit City and all that kind of, those are
like I said, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. They say, okay, but that's the thing. Now, basically flying time. Of course, it depends on the battery. What's usually
a lesser expensive. I don't want to say cheaper. A lesser expensive drone.
Okay.
You could get anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, maybe on average, all the way up to some of the drones are boasting 55 minutes of flight time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But keep in mind those batteries are it takes 2 batteries to fly. They're each about the size of a brick.
Yeah.
And that's with no wind, minimal payload, things like that.
Now, does the fire department that you volunteer, do they utilize drones?
Yes. Yep. And they're trying to apply for grants. A lot of the police departments, more police departments, I would say, than fire departments are using drones.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, to assess situations, I mean,
Well, my public safety end of it, there's departments out there now. So you get an accident. As unfortunate as it would be, somebody, say, gets hit by a vehicle, right? And now, instead of shutting the road down and bringing out the team and, having the road shut down for hours, they close the road, they launch the drone with the technology and the programming they have with thermal imaging. They could even see the heat signature of where the ambulance was parked. Yeah, and where the victim might have been lying on the ground. They do it all. It does the mapping. It downloads the program, and it just saves so much time. Good for the public because the road isn't shut down, right? And it's safer because you don't have people out there, and it just expedites the whole process.
Well, case in point, 2 weeks ago. I live on, I have my music stores on Main Street, Portland, and we had a kid get hit by a car. Up, I think the road was closed until 9:30, and this was at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
They had, they had to bring in Middletown's accident reconstruction team, to take.
Well, they're fortunate enough that they have those assets available regionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, this isn't something that not everyone can do it or wants to do it.
Right,
That's
right.
the other thing.
Yeah.
You have to have buy-in from your leadership.
Well, they got to have skin in the game, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly,
To get to that point for sure.
But the Connecticut State Police utilize them.
Yeah.
They have their own drone unit. They have drone antennas they could send up. There's a lot to it.
Now, does each barracks have their own unit, or is it?
There's a whole unit.
There's a-
Yeah, and there's members of that unit that are sprinkled throughout the state.
Okay, it's just like the SWAT teams.
Basically,
Yeah,
yeah. They're bomb guys, they're SWAT guys, they're
Yeah,
dive team.
yeah,
All,
yeah.
They're special units.
Yeah, their specialty and so forth. So.
And like I said in the presentation, Fidney Fire Department in New York, they have their own robotics unit.
Well, when you're dealing with
Yeah.
millions of people in a city, you get everything from bomb scares to
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
You get to that point. It's.
The city, both their fire department and their police department, they're squared away. They're
Well, they got to be.
Yeah, exactly,
when you're
yeah.
dealing with that amount of people and so forth.
But that photo I showed, think about it, right? You're a fire chief and the building's full of smoke, and I'm putting fire streams in there, and I don't know if I'm hitting the fire.
Yeah.
And you get that thermal imaging camera up in the air. You could say, hey, move that hose line over 20 feet. Boom, you're right on it. Let's put that fire out.
Yeah,
Instead of hitting the roof or something that you don't see.
Well, that's it. Surround and drown.
Well, yeah, that's old school mentality, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Good for business, I guess, right? If you're selling the water.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, well, Mike, any advice for young students, okay, out of high school? What do you to get them into not only the water industry but some of the technology? What would you recommend?
Embrace it, and if I could say something to a younger, a potential utility employee, whatever utility is, I think the water utility is just a unique business.
It is.
I've always said, A, we're the only utility you consume.
Yep.
And B, it's one of those utilities where some days you get the bear, some days the bear gets you.
Yeah.
But it's a give and take.
Yep.
And and it's never 50-50.
No.
You may be given 60% one day and given 40 the next, but that balance has to be 50-50, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think that's what this makes us a very passionate group of people. Think about it, right? Even the presenters we hear, everyone is just, no matter what the topic is, right?
Well, and they're so willing to share. They're inspired and they're not afraid to share their expertise, their technology with the group.
And so take that to a young person coming in.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the training.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the training here.
Yeah.
There's people in this business they're willing to share their knowledge.
So anyway, hey, on my other alter ego, I'm a musician. I own a music store and so forth. So I have a couple. What's your favorite band?
Ooh, Creedence Clearwater.
CCR.
Yeah, a little CCR. That's my favorite. That's my go-to.
There-
But I'm very eclectic. I mean, I can listen to Dave Matthews. I can listen to Walker Hayes. I mean,
What was
it's like beer. What's my favorite beer? An open one. That's
touche.
Yeah.
So you remember the first concert you ever attended?
No, I don't. That was a question that somebody put on the board at work too, and I jokingly put Yanni.
Oh. Nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
hey. There's a taste for everybody.
Yeah, right,
There,
yeah.
sir. Okay. So the other questions I have desert island questions. Okay, if you got stuck on a desert island, what food could you eat every day?
What food could I eat every day? Eggplant parm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Eggplant parm.
That's a new one. Pizza's been a high one. Tacos are high, and occasionally we get quite a few people at once.
I've really fond of grouper tacos.
Oh,
Yeah, grouper taco. Oh,
Killer.
my mouth is watering just talking about it right now.
all right. So desert island album. If you got stuck on a desert island, what album would you bring to listen to? CCR.
I think so.
Yeah.
I gotta stick with that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's if all's fails.
So, what do you like to do for hobbies?
Whew. That's a loading. How much time do you have?
You,
Yeah.
you got
So I scuba dive. I play co-ed volleyball.
Okay.
I teach a lot of classes at night. EMTs and fire classes, things like that.
well, I don't know if you've ever been there, but Sean Hayes, who owns the Brownstone Exploration Park, he owns the dive shop in Weathersfield.
I did my dry suit certification in the Brownstone Quarry.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
There you go. And so, and that
Most boring dive I've ever done in my entire life.
well, the right side down there. I mean, you can get down off that Silver Street wall. That's probably about 90 feet.
I was just saying, I thought we were down 92 feet.
Yeah, and so forth. And there's some big carp down there.
Yeah.
And so forth. Well, at least that's what the divers say.
No, they're correct. Yeah.
And so forth. Yeah. But Sean, he lets the state police guys come in and train there. He always, our Portland dive team, they always train there and so forth. But it's a controlled atmosphere. And,
It is, and that's a unique animal. I did that on my volunteer side, and it's
Yeah.
you need to be a different breed of person for that, I think.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So anyway, all right, fantastic. Hey, thanks so much for coming.
It was a pleasure. Always a pleasure speaking with you. I mean, I've seen you around for many years, and I'm happy to see that you're still here.
Well, hey, I'm happy to be here. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of the careers in the water industry and the careers you didn't know about. And with us in the house, ladies and gentlemen, from the Connecticut Water Company, who has done it all, Mr. Mike Witek, ladies and gentlemen. So, Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And again, we are live here at the iconic, the Taconic Inn in Manchester, Vermont. So, until then, that is all.